Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unleash Your Power. This is your host, Jeffrey Pinzon. And today, man, I'm blown away. I'm super excited because we have a special guest. Quick shout out to Stephanie for making this happen. Today, we're going to have the great pleasure of interviewing someone who has transitioned his life from sleeping in a vehicle to now having the choice of car that he wants, traveling private jets and everything. So a little bit about Albert Preciado is that about 2008, he was broke, and now he's living the dream life, living in Beverly Hills. Albert, man, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to sit down with you and get to talk to you a little bit, man. I know that you're going to bring a ton of value to the audience, so thank you, man.
Hey, thank you for having me.
How was Puerto Rico, man? Because I know that you just came from Puerto Rico, man.
You know, on our way over there, our two little daughters got really sick.
Oh, wow.
So they got a cold. So it was like the worst, the worst day of the cold when you have all the runny nose and your fever and all that stuff. So they got better over there, but then they got us sick on the way back. And then, but you never could plan on a perfect situation. Like whenever you have a upcoming big event,
Right.
You're not going to be perfect.
Right.
Something's going to happen always. So it's like when Canelo's going to fight, for example.
Right.
Things happen, so you just have to pivot adjust, and just execute.
That's awesome, man. And how beautiful is that? Now you're traveling to the places that you like in a private jet, man, living life on your terms, and that's something that I gotta commend you for because you've done it, man. I remember the first driven event that I went to. And it's the transformation that you yourself and your company and the people that you're touching, man, is incredible, man. It's very inspiring, my man. And I've looked at you from far away, and I've learned tremendously from you, man. So thank you for being a contribution, man, and showing what's possible, right? So with that said, tell us a little bit about. Let's go back, man. Let's go back to who was Albert when he was back in high school, middle school. Who was that young man, man?
A totally different Albert. So, elementary school, I didn't speak in English. I didn't speak English. I spoke Spanish because it was my first language. And I went to school, and everybody, I remember the teachers, the kids, they would make fun of me. And, they put me special ed class. Then they figured out, wait, he's not special ed. He's just doesn't understand the language well. So they put me in ESL class. And then from there on, it was just a struggle. I hated school so much. And I used to take the school bus like an hour every day. Now we're there, and now we're back to Granada Hills. Because I grew up in Echo Park, which is like the bad part of Echo Park. So a lot of shootings, drug dealing. So that's how I grew up. And if people that are watching this, there's a lot of Latinos, Hispanics watching this. You understand how Hispanic the culture is. They overprotect. They have that mindset of being scared of everything. You can't do this, you can't do that. I used to open the fridge, and then my parents always used to get mad because I used to leave it open too long, and the electricity. So everything was a problem.
Right.
So you grow up really insecure, and then you're like a big time. I'm still a big time Mexican. So I go to school to Granada Hills, and everybody's white. I'm like one of the 3-4 Mexican kids or Hispanic kids, minority kids, and it's like shocking.
How was that like?
I mean, I just remembered that I hated it so much.
Why?
Like I hated it. I cried all the way to school the first day because you're used to being overprotected as an Hispanic, and then you go on the school bus for the first time and you leave. I left my parents for the first time. So in the school bus, the first ride, I remember a kid grabbing me on a headlock and just bullying me. And then I get to the school, and I'm like, who are all these people? Like they're all like white, like yellow, and they speak a different language. So I'm just like, I don't understand English. So they start making fun of me. I don't know. I don't even understand what kind of names they're calling me. So I'm there, and then I just have to fight back. So I remember I just needed to either fight back or just give up and quit.
Why did you choose to fight back?
I had no other option. I wasn't going to quit.
That's right.
My dad always told me, like, never be a quitter. So I decided to fight back. And then from there on, I just hated all the way till the 12th grade. I hated school, but I needed to go to school. And I grew up with my mom, my dad telling me that in order to be successful, you got to go to college, get a degree, and make money.
Right.
And obviously that's not the correct way to make a lot of money. That's
Right.
the correct way to be an employee for life for somebody else that figured it out, how to open businesses, which is, where I am today. And everybody sees that, what I have now, but they don't see like all the struggles in the beginning.
Right. So tell us about a story in the process while you were developing your companies, right? You have a bunch of companies right now that are thriving, right? You have Driven, you have Ambience Realty, you have the mortgage guys. Now you just opened an escrow company as well, right?
Yeah.
And you have multiple streams of income. Like, tell us about the process of you getting to that point, right? Because it wasn't easy, and I'm sure that you started bits by bits, right? So how did you develop that Albert that is today?
The key thing, that's why I called the conference in the beginning, then it turned into an event. I called it Driven, because you need a lot of drive. And you know when things are not going well, when Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, just remember them in the fourth quarter, they're down by 18 points. Maybe it's game 7, the last game. And they need to come back from those 18 points, and it seems impossible, and you need that drive to carry you through. So like I remember and ever since I was a little kid, I always had that drive and to keep going no matter what, to never quit. And in order to
How did you keep that mindset with that? Again, unconventional. Your parents are telling you go go to school, go get a good paying job. How did you keep that mindset and be like, no, that's not what I want. I want to venture into. You were betting on Albert, right?
Yeah. Well, I had nobody to teach me.
Exactly.
Like my dad and my mom taught me to the best of their ability, and they're not entrepreneurs. And so I needed to figure out a lot of things on my own. And I think 2 things that happened in my life. First, when I went with my dad, because my dad was a painter. Mm-hmm. So I always wanted to be with my dad. He was my hero, and he still is. And I always wanted to go work. I don't know why, but I wanted to go with him. I think I just wanted to be with him. So at 6, I started going with him to help him paint. Mm-hmm. So we would go to Beverly Hills, and I think that's the first time that fucked me, because when I went there, I saw a big mansion in Beverly Hills, and I saw a red car, which was a Ferrari. And I'm used to the callejones,
right?
So we go through the back. That's the alley in the back.
Alleys, yeah.
And I remember my dad getting in fights, and I was just in there in the alley, in the callejon, and just looking at him through the back window. And I remember shootings, drug dealers, and I was used to that. So we go to Beverly Hills to paint the house, and I see the big house, all the trees, nothing ugly. Like everything is like beautiful. And then I'm not used to seeing those cars. So I asked my dad, like, hey dude, what's going on? Like, Dad, like, why don't we live here? Like, why do we live over there? How come you don't get this car? And that's when I understood money, and I understood hard work, and I understood that you have to work really hard and never quit. Because I asked my dad, why don't you have this? And he said, it's not for us. And then that got me thinking. I'm like, what do you mean it's not for us? So then I asked my dad, well, how can I get it? Is it possible? And he said 2 things. If you never quit and you work harder than everybody else, then maybe it's possible. And I remember from there on, I just had that dream, and I became so driven to get it. And I remember that, like, it was impossible. It was hard. It was not real for us to drive a Ferrari. Like, right. Nobody in our family had not even a Mercedes.
Right.
Like, they had old Mercedes or maybe an old Beamer. But I remember that just my first time that I started doing good in mortgages before the crash of 2008, I got an S550, like brand new, and I was 20. Okay. And nobody in the family had ever gotten a $100,000 car. And everybody was like, so when that happened, I'm like, how can I get that Ferrari? Like maybe I'm getting a little bit closer to that Beverly Hills home. And I saw it, like I felt it a little bit, touched it a little bit, and I knew that I always remembered my dad, and I remember his little face. That when he told me that if you never quit and you work harder than everybody, you can achieve it. So that I just kept going.
So you kept that in the screen of your mind at that time when your dad was telling you it. If you never quit, you're gonna get it. If you work hard.
Yeah.
So that you took that feeling with you, right? And so how did that support you? And what were some stuff that? Because again, you got into mortgage at what age? The mortgage business.
19.
19. So what did you do prior to that, and why did you choose to go into the mortgage business?
Well, I had a girlfriend, and her brother drove 3 nice cars. So he drove a Mercedes, an S-Class, and he had a Lexus SUV, and then he had a Hummer. And then he lived in a house in the hills that was pretty big. Looking back now, those are nice cars, but they're not like super
They're
nice
not exotic cars.
And that house was in the hills. It was in Glendale, but it wasn't a huge house. Like I think it was 2,000 square feet. And it had a pool. But back then, that pool looked humongous. That house looked humongous, and those cars looked humongous. But that inspired me because coming from nothing, I asked my girlfriend at the time, like, hey, I want to meet your brother. And I would always be like kind of hinting at her, hey, let's go to the house. Let's go to the Glendale Hills house. So I remember the first time I met him, I was just asking questions. So like one thing that people should do that are watching this is always ask questions, because
Absolutely.
people are scared to ask stupid questions. And you got to be curious. Yeah. Everybody that's been the greatest has been curious. Like think about Kobe.
Right.
Like he was always curious. Like how can I learn Hakeem Olajuwon moves? How can I? And he hired all these weird people. Like Hakeem Olajuwon is a center.
Right.
He's a shooting guard.
Right.
But he wanted to learn those post moves.
Right.
He was always curious to learn different things.
Right.
My children, I want them to be curious. I always want them to ask questions because I grew up insecure, and I was scared to ask questions. So I was made fun of when I asked stupid questions, but I didn't stop.
How did you deal with that, right? You say you were insecure, so how did you deal with that in the process?
For a moment, I was really insecure, and it affected me to the point where I just didn't want to get out of my room. Going forward a little bit we were talking about this brother of my ex, my girlfriend at the time. He was. I asked him, how can I do what you're doing? How can I be successful? How can I be good in mortgages? Because he had a mortgage company. And I asked him so many questions. I got in his nerves. He told me, read this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And then when you finish it, come back and I'll tell you how to get licensed and all that. But before that, I remember I was scared because every time I asked questions, the teachers would make fun of me. So I got to a point that was really dark in my life where I didn't want to get out of my room. So I had my room, and the lights were always dark.
Wow.
And I would close the curtains because, my mom always told me, the sun is bad for you. You're going to get skin cancer. And so everything was like, it's almost like I was programmed that you have to be scared of everything. Like, hey, when you walk through the streets, walk through the middle of the street, because if you walk in the sides, you might get jumped or knifed or whatever. So I grew up always like with fear. When you get it, when you're driving, oh, be careful, because you might get in an accident. So everything was always like that. That's just like a lot of our Hispanic people.
We're playing defense instead of offense, right?
You're always scared, and you always think that you're not good enough. So I got to a point where I was just so insecure. And then I had pimples, like a lot of pimples. So I went through a period of time where I didn't want to leave my room. So everything was dark because I didn't want the sun to come in. I didn't want people to see my pimples. And then I was so skinny because I remember that I needed to eat healthy and weird. So my mom was like, you got to eat chicken and veggies. And that's all I ate. And I ate I didn't really eat. So I got extremely skinny. I was about the same height, and I weighed like 120.
Wow.
So I was really skinny, didn't want to go out of my room, pimples, and just everything was made me feel very insecure. So everybody thought I was going crazy because I never went out of my room. But what I was doing is I would stay up late till 2, 3 in the morning, and I would research like online. I was always big on being online, and I started researching like how do I improve all these things that are giving me problems. And finally, after I got out of high school, I wanted to fix all these things that I didn't like about myself. So I started doing all this research, and then one of the things that I got from the internet is go to the beach and just burn your face and swim in the salt water, and that's gonna make your skin better and it's gonna fix it. So I did that and it worked. Then I started researching and I started taking creatine because I researched that creatine makes your muscles bigger and size and strength. So I started taking creatine. Long story short, I ended up with a tan. I ended up with muscles. And then I had a mole here that I used to hate, and I took it off because it looked like Enrique Iglesias. He had a huge mole in his face.
Yeah.
Like I had it right here.
Okay.
So I would always. I remember. Think about the stupid things that people do. I used to wear my long sleeve shirts like super long so that they would cover the mole because I was embarrassed of girls looking at my mole because it was those moles that stick out.
Yeah.
So I hated it. And then I'm 120. I weigh 120, so I'm super skinny, long extra sleeve shirts, and I look like Snoop Dogg, like just so skinny and so I was just, if you think about one of the most insecure people, that was me.
Wow, that's crazy, man. So from right there, I love that you touched on while you were still inside that room, everything dark, you were working. Right?
Yeah.
You were working, you were putting in the work, doing the study, becoming curious, right? Finding ways, finding solutions, right? Mm-hmm. Finding solutions to the problems that you were encountering in your life right there at that moment. So that's powerful because a lot of people just get stuck in the problem and they don't do nothing about it. And I think that's something that's a gift that you have because we were just talking with Stephanie, man, and she talks about that. You're that courage mentor, right?
Yeah.
You just take that action, man, and you follow with the steps necessary for you to make things happen, right? So from right there, Albert, you started getting into mortgages, right? You got licensed. What happened next?
So after fixing all the things that I didn't like about myself, because I was also with insecurity, I was also very shy. Like I didn't like to go out there and approach strangers.
Wow.
And I always wanted to hook up with chicks. And in high school and middle school, I was always like the ugly kid, the opposite of the popular kid. So I would see all the popular kids with the hot girls. And I would see these hot girls. I remember this girl, like she's like almost looks like Sil, like Latina, morenita, nice curves, and I'm in high school. I'm like a sophomore, and I'm like, damn, I want to get to this girl, like nice body. If you're watching this, like just picture a perfect model body, curvy, like the Latinas, and I'm like, man, I want this girl, but she's going out with the popular.
She's not paying attention to you.
Yeah, like I'm not even in her lens.
Yeah,
like she's going out with the tough dude, wearing the Jordans and all that. So I'm like, man, I want to get girls like this. So that's what inspired me to go out there and fix everything that was wrong with me that I didn't like, and turns out that I didn't have as many pimples as I thought. I just didn't like certain things, like. And I think if you're watching this and there's things that you don't like about yourself, go fix them, go work on them. The worst mistake you can make is to go fix things that other people think are wrong with you. So you got to fix whatever you think is wrong with you, whatever you don't like about yourself. Forget about other people. Like, who gives a shit what other people think about you? Focus on yourself, because one thing that I learned really quickly is when you try to please everybody else, you're not happy, and people still hate on you, and people still criticize you. When you focus on making yourself happy and doing whatever you want, which now at least you're happy with what you're doing, and people are still gonna
hate on you, right?
So I just decided to just be myself, be a kid again, because when you're a kid, like Italia, she came here and she doesn't care that we're gonna do this. She's like, oh, I'm not leaving. And then you have to kind of sell her on, hey, we're gonna go over here and you're gonna eat some macaroni and cheese or whatever Steph said.
Right.
But that's why sales are really important. So when I started just learning things, fixing myself, and then being curious, that book that I read, Rich Dad Poor Dad, showed me employees, business owners, self-employed, and I started learning all that stuff. And I started thinking like, wait a minute,
cash flow quadrant, right?
What my mom said, and all my aunts and the people I grew up with, all of these people that are getting degrees, they're working for other people. They're not making money. So I said, school's not for me. So that's when I decided, let me drop out of college and let me go become self-employed. And I don't want to be these people that are going to college and getting into debt. Let me be like this guy. His name was Jaime, the brother of my girlfriend at the time.
Right.
And I want to be like him. I don't want to be like the other people. So I said, I'm going to get my license. I get my license, and then he hires me, and I'm one of the loan officers in the company. First month, I close 4 deals, and I make $16,000 that first month.
Wow.
$16,000 when you're 20, and your previous job that you had was I was a teacher assistant. They used to pay me $9 an hour.
So prior to that, what was the biggest check you got?
Dude, I used to get paid every month, like $900.
From 900 to 16,000,
and $900 W-2. Yeah. So I would collect, like maybe $650. And I remember that I would take a sandwich. My mom would make me a sandwich. I would take it to work and to the teacher assistant job, and then I would go to the $1 menu in McDonald's to get some French fries for $1, get some nuggets for $1, and I would make that into like a meal, my sandwich with the $1 menu. But at the same time, I was reading books. So I would grade all the math work, and I used to be a TA, teacher assistant for second graders. So I remember that I used to go and grade everything fast, and then just read my book. So I read every book for a period of time. I was reading a book a week.
Wow!
So I was reading every new book every week, and then the teacher finally caught on, and she's like, "Hey, like why are you reading those books? Like that book is garbage. Like that book is a waste of time, and it's garbage, and you're never gonna get anywhere by reading those books. What you need to do is you need to get a degree like me and become a teacher and get a job." And then I'm like, I didn't show up to work the next day. I just called him and I said, "Hey, I'm not coming to work anymore."
So you quit that moment.
It's probably that's the only time in my life that I quit.
Wow.
Like I quit that job, and I said, I'm gonna go.
Why did you decide to quit after she told you that?
Because I just felt she was so wrong for telling me that stuff, and then she pissed me off. So I said, you know what? And I was already talking to Jaime, the mortgage person.
Yeah.
And I was already like in the works of getting my license and all that stuff. So I quit that job. And then I got into mortgages. And before mortgages, I tried doing real estate for like a month, and I just decided I don't like real estate because I don't like carrying the signs, being in the sun. I like to just be with air conditioner, doing loans for realtors, and I could get more business. So I decided to just go all in with mortgages. And first month, I closed 4 deals, all cold calling. So I would just cold call from 8 in the morning till 11 p.m. and sometimes longer than that.
Wow. So what did that do to you, right? That identity shift, right? From making $900 to now making $16,000. Like, what went through your head? Did you get excited? Were you excited when you collected that check? Like, I remember when I first got my first big check, right? I couldn't wait until it was the next day because I wanted to go do it all over again, right? Yeah. I didn't even sleep because I'm like, man, I'm a math person, so I started doing numbers. I'm like, man, that means if I do this every single day, this is the amount, and you get excited. What went through your head, man? I'm curious.
So me not having a mentor back then, my mentor was Jaime. So he was my mentor, and he was the person that I would study and want to be like. So I used to remember that he used to love partying, going out, and he would have a lot of girlfriends all the time. So I started thinking like, man, that's cool. And I always wanted to have some chicks. So I'm like, what are chicks attracted to? Money. People make the mistake that they chase the girls. When you got to do is you got to chase the money, and then the girls are going to chase you. So I started the first thing I did was I made that amount, right? 16 grand the first month. I'm like, let me go get an S550.
Oh, so you went and got it, bam.
I went in the next month. I went and got my S550. So I got an S550, $100,000 car, and
what was that feeling getting that car, man?
I cried a little bit. When I left the dealership, I parked, and I just stopped for a moment, and I was just like, can't believe I have this car, because that was my dream car at the time. Like I always saw the S class, and I used to watch Entourage, so they had the S550.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I want to get this car. So I was the youngest in the company to have a car like that. So I start with a big bang. I get the S550, and then I buy a house like a few months later. Then I buy another house, and then from there every month got better and better and better. So I started making a lot of money, and then I started having a bunch of girls. Like I have my morning girl, and I would have to make up an appointment. Because I would wake up in the morning and then I'm like, dude, I got to get this girl out of here because
the other one is coming.
Yeah, the other one's coming for lunch. So I would tell the girl, like because the girl wouldn't leave. Different girls all the time. They wouldn't leave the house. And it was my house in Sierra Madre. So I'm like, dude, when is she going to leave? Because I don't know, but back then I was, you have a girl and your goal is to like go and get that girl. And once you get that girl, you're like on to the next girl.
You have like a kill list, right?
Yeah. Then you're like, hey, please, you know what? I conquered. I'll see you next week.
Yeah.
But the girl wouldn't leave, and different ones. So I would make up appointments. I would jump in the shower and kind of get ready, put a dressing shirt on, and I'm like, yeah, girl, I gotta go. I'm gonna go to my appointment. Oh, okay. So finally they would leave. I would just go around, park again, and be ready for the next girl. Then I need to get rid of that girl because another girl would come for the nighttime to go out. So long story short, I started doing cocaine. I get into I just start drinking every day, going out every day, and then 2008 happens. I lose everything, and one of the girls that I was dating at the time was Sil. So then when you never know what you have until you're close to losing that person or that whatever it is. So when that happens, 2008, I'm like, shit. Like, if you guys don't know what I mean by that, we had a mortgage meltdown and everything stopped. You couldn't fund any loans. Everything just stopped. So I'm like, damn, what am I gonna do? So I lose everything, got foreclosed of both properties. My car got repossessed. So I had nothing. I went back.
You were living paycheck to paycheck.
I wasn't paying anything.
Okay.
I wasn't paying anything. Not forget paycheck to paycheck. I was living paycheck to paycheck 2 years ago. Yeah. But and I'll explain that. But back then I was negative. Like I wasn't paying my mortgage. That's why I got foreclosed. I was just not making any money. I sold my Rolex. I got rid of everything to just survive. And when I lost everything, and when they closed my, they changed my locks, and they said you can't. So you could, the house is not yours anymore.
Yeah.
If you go in, then we're gonna arrest you.
Yeah.
And then they said, well, I said, well, my dog's in there. Okay, well, we have to set up an appointment for you to go get your dog and get your belongings. And I'm like, okay. So then what happened is, that moment I call Sil. And I asked her, like, hey, do you think you could pick me up? And I'm like, dude, she's gonna tell me like, go fuck off, because she knew I was going out with different girls. I would run into her at the club sometimes, and I would be with a different girl, and I was just a crazy like Wolf of Wall Street but Mexican. And she forgave me. She said, yeah, you know what? I'll pick you up. And then I explained to her what happened, and then all I had was my Ford Explorer. Salvage Ford Explorer that my dad and my mom bought me for college, that I dropped out. But it was an older Ford Explorer now. This is like 10 years later, and so the Ford Explorer, I slept in it for 2 months with Sil, and then from there on, things just started getting better and better and better. But that was like when I lost everything, and people think, hey, how horrible, you were homeless, you slept in the Ford Explorer, but it wasn't that bad, because I used to go park my car in nice neighborhoods, and I used to sleep, maybe not as comfy as my Sierra Madre house, but I used to stay in good areas. I picked good neighborhoods, and we would have sex there. We would sleep there, and then we would go to Starbucks, continue to work, sneak into the gym because we couldn't afford a membership to shower and work out. So we kept the same kind of lifestyle,
Right.
But except the parties and all that stuff because I didn't have any money.
Right.
But then from there on, just being a good person, doing the right things, everything started getting better and better and better.
So right there, Albert, when you were making money, right? You lost it all. Now you're sleeping in a car. Like, what were some conversations that you were having? Did you ever remember that teacher that was telling you, like, man, what you need to do is that you need to go to school and get a degree and get a good paying job? Like, did you ever remember that? And did you use that as fire? Like, fuck no, man, I can't give up.
Yeah.
Right?
I remembered the same thing, my dad's little face. So my dad always told me that you can't quit. So like that's one thing that's very, very important. You can't ever be a quitter because once you quit one time, you're a quitter for life.
Becomes a habit.
It's
right?
like a boxer. They get knocked out. Now it's easier for them to quit. Now every fight they get knocked out. Every fight they quit. They give up. So I remember I can't quit, and I remembered I always use as motivation. Like when people try to criticize me, hate, talk shit about me. The only thing these idiots are doing, they're just giving me more energy.
Yeah.
They're making me work an extra hour. They're making me wake up an hour earlier. So like it's not good. The best thing they could do is just shut the fuck up. But they keep saying things, and all they do is they light more fire to me. Like that. Now I want a better car. Now I want bigger houses, more houses. Now I want my own jet. You know, now it's not like, okay, chartering is cool. Now I'm going to get my own jet. Like these people just firing, they keep giving me more energy. So that's continue to do that because I like that.
Why do you like that so much?
Because that moment when I lost everything and everybody was making fun of me, he lost his S550. Look, he's sleeping in the car. He doesn't have any money. He's broke now. He had to sell his watch. And people are celebrating, family members included. Now family members try to reach out to me because they want money. Before, so a lot of the time, the people that are bad in your life are family, close friends that you thought. So like I remember that moment. I remember all these people are talking shit. All these people want to see me fail. So I'm not gonna quit, and I'm gonna continue to push through. So that's the energy and the fire that allowed me to go and get out of that Ford Explorer and continue to win again.
Reinvent yourself, right? So what are some things right there from 2008, right? You're broke, now you're building yourself again. You're reinventing Albert, right? You're creating the better version of yourself. What are some key things that you started taking action right away?
The thing that stands out the most is I started upgrading my mentors.
Really?
So I started getting better mentors that taught me higher level information, because now you see me with all my friends are billionaires.
Right.
And before I had millionaire friends. Before that, even 500,000 friends. So those people are only going to get you to that level. They're not going to get you anywhere higher. So if you want to take your company to $1 billion, why would you be hanging out or learning from people that have multi-million-dollar companies? Learn from people that have sold billion-dollar companies. Learn from people that are in your industry. So like if you want to sell your company for $1 billion, have billionaire friends that are in the industry of lending, not insurance, not restaurants, not anything else.
Right.
So I started upgrading my mentors. And I continue to do that.
That's huge, man. Yeah, and this last event that you had, Driven 5, man, your lineup was just off the hook, man. Jim Quigg, Tom, Jesse, Tim Grover, Les Brown, Rob Luna, Sale, man. You had some incredible people, Cindy, and it's the power of association, man. I really saw the value. Man, I even had an opportunity of having dinner with Tim Grover because of that, man, because of the association. That's very powerful, man. So tell me about a time, Albert, where you were reinventing yourself and you had some setbacks, right? Because it wasn't all rainbows, right? It wasn't all pretty. What were some setbacks that still, because you're barely growing, right? You're developing yourself. You don't have these association.
Yeah.
So what are some things that right now that people could do that, hey, man, they're probably in the same shoes that you were at?
I think most important is people that everybody now wants to be an entrepreneur. Everybody wants to be a CEO, and very few people are meant for that.
Can you elaborate on that?
Most people are meant to be intrapreneurs, meaning like they are gonna unite with a founder that put all the money to start the company, and they're gonna partner up with them and get equity one day. And today, most people just want to be, everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Everybody wants to have a card with CEO on it. Like, how cool is it to have a CEO card when you employ nobody, you're making no money, you drive a piece of shit. There's no, that's not cool. Or if that makes you feel better and happy, then go for it. But why not be like, you know what? This person is the leader I want to be next to. This person is the person I want to learn from. This person is the one that I want to, one day get equity and help grow the company. And then people don't get that. And it's a truth that hurts. But if I could give it people watching this advice, like, hey, why not like join this force that's already put all the money, already started the business from scratch, already went through the audits, the lawsuits, the mistakes, lost millions, almost went out of business, almost got heart attacks, went through all that stuff, because people don't realize that starting a business is like being in the army. You could die any day. Any day you could get a heart attack and die. Any day you could get shot and get killed. And that's if you want to start a real business. Now, if you want to go and be self-employed and do small jobs and have a business that's going to make $100,000 a year, cool. $200,000 a year, cool. But if you want to start a business that one day an investor is going to cut a check for $1 billion or billions, or who knows, maybe $1 trillion, then that's going to take a lot of effort and combined effort from an entrepreneur and a bunch of intrapreneurs that together are going to build this company. Microsoft, they had an employee that was the 7th highest paid employee. That person became one of the richest people in the world right now.
Wow.
And then why? Because this person was an intrapreneur, and this person grew with the company and then got paid because they helped grow the company. So I think that's the biggest thing right now that I could give, especially to all the younger ones that are watching this. Like, hey, maybe sit down and think, maybe I have this great opportunity with this great leader, and then this leader, I'll use Michael Jordan as an example. This Michael Jordan, I'm going to be the Scottie Pippen, and we're going to win all these championships. But everybody wants to be Michael Jordan, but there's only one Michael Jordan. There's only one Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, and like you said, man, everybody wants to be Michael Jordan, but nobody wants to pay the price like Michael Jordan did, right?
Exactly.
And by you teaming up with Michael Jordan, you're able to leverage and cut your time in half, because now you're with somebody like, again, you went through all the mistakes, the losses, the heart attacks, and all that. So on that, man, what is your blue ocean strategy, man? How do you set yourself apart from any other company? Mortgage companies, you have your real estate company, your escrow company, and now you have the conference, right, where you're throwing all these big events. How do you set yourself apart from everybody else?
So one quick thing to add to that is, many times, my wife was pregnant. And Italia was, we were doing okay because we only had a few employees, and we were doing good. We had a good lifestyle, but I would always take huge risks that would push me and force me to get to that next level. But I remember when Italia was like 1, and we moved to 10,000, some high rise. For 2 years. Like I didn't, every day I would wake up with just hating my life. Like I want to, and I would go to the balcony, 37th floor, 36th floor, out of 40, and I was paying $20,000 a month to live there.
And you were hating your life.
And my business was negative. Like I was paycheck to paycheck, negative. And what I mean by that, and this is like 3 years ago. Wow. And what I mean by that is, many times I would go to the balcony, and I wouldn't like to get close to the end of it, because I really think I would jump out, because I wanted to end my hard life. Like my life was I didn't want to, I couldn't do it anymore. It was just too much. I was making millions, but all the millions were going out. And you know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you make $2 million. What's your net? Negative.
Negative.
So you have to pay all the employees first. You become the employee to the employees, and then I couldn't file my taxes because I didn't have any money. I owed a lot of money, and I made mistakes with I didn't know what was a real expense. What can you write off? What can't you? So I was figuring out everything from scratch, and that's why I say that you don't have to do that. You could join somebody like Jeffrey, somebody like Albert, somebody like Susan, and they have their company already, and then you grow the company together, and you don't have to go through those moments where you want to jump out.
Right.
One time we're at the Fontainebleau, and this is 2.5 years, this is 2018, October 8th, something like that, and not too long ago. And when I say I was negative in my business, it is that I every month I was negative. Let's just use like 100,000, for example. Mm-hmm. So every month I was like negative 100,000, negative. So the business was going nowhere. And every 3 months I had to sell property. And that's one of the best things I did in life was buy real estate. Because when I got into trouble, I sold all my real estate.
Wow.
And every sell I would make 200,000, 300,000, and that would keep me afloat again. And I was in so much trouble that I went to the office on Saturdays to hope that a check arrived.
So you could pay.
So that I could
Nice.
deposit it on Saturday and pray that everything cleared.
Wow.
And people don't see that. People see like, oh, like now this, now that. But that's the life of an entrepreneur. Sometimes your balance is 80 grand. Sometimes your balance is negative.
Negative 80 grand.
So like, you got to understand that, and you got to remember that it's not for everybody. But if you're willing to put all the work, then maybe it's for you.
That's huge right there, courage, right? That's having the courage and betting on yourself and believing that, hey, man, everything's going to be good at the end of the day. I know last time that we conversed, I was telling you, man, I want to get an exotic car. Do you recommend? And I remember right away, Albert, you were like, do it. And in my mind, I'm like, why is this guy telling me to do it? Like, he doesn't even know if I have enough money saved or anything. Why are you so blunt about it? And you're like, man, yeah, if you want it, go get it. Right?
Yeah. Look,
why is that so important?
And I'll end it with this, and I want to answer your question that you asked before that about what was my blue ocean strategy. So when I started the company in 2013, I Googled everything. I don't know how to do it. And I asked my prior broker, my prior boss, hey, I'm going to get a broker license, and what do you think? He just told me, don't do it. But he wants me to stay there and make him money. So the idea of me starting a company wasn't my idea. Somebody else saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And this lady calls me. Her name is Gina Carr. And she tells me, Albert, why don't you start a company? Get your broker's license. And I'm like, that sparked an idea. And I'm like, okay, let me do it. So I figured out, well, what am I going to call it? The mortgage guy. Like, I'm a mortgage and I'm a guy. I do mortgages and I'm a guy. Even the logo, if you look at it, it's me with spiky hair. Before I think you met me when I had hair.
Yeah.
So I started the company. I make all the mistakes in the world, right? So then year one, I'm like, man, this is not as easy as I thought. Like, why did I start a company? I was making way more money working for a broker. He takes all the liability, he has all the expenses.
All you have to do is produce,
Yeah,
right?
I just produce and keep all the money. I don't have to pay employees and maybe an assistant. So I'm like, why did I get into this shit? And then I start thinking like, man, I can't quit. That's always been with me. I can't quit. I need to stay driven. And this drive is going to carry me through. And ever since then, first you can't quit, but then you have to continue that drive forever. Like, your drive will carry you through wherever you want to go. If you want to go to 100 million, it'll take you there. If you want to get to 1 billion, it'll get you there. Like now, the new billion is a trillion. Now people should stop talking about billion and start focusing on trillion. How do you build a $1 trillion company? There's plenty of them. So when I start thinking about how do I stand out because nobody wants to join my company, nobody cares about me. And I remember that an old mentor told me, you don't have an audience, and Tony Robbins is killing me because he's a genius marketer. So I read this book, Blue Ocean Strategy, which is a book that teaches you marketing. And the circuses, they used to be plain and simple. Cirque du Soleil reinvented the circus space. And that's one of the stories they talk about with the Blue Ocean Strategy book. So I'm thinking, okay, what do? I started buying all these courses, Tai Lopez, 67 steps. And then I see this video with him and his Lambo and his bookshelf in the garage. So I said, you know what? I tried everything and I keep failing. Let me try that. So I'm like, I'm going to get a Ferrari, my dream car, at 6 years old when I used to go pay with my dad. And I'm going to use it like a prostitute. What do I mean by that? I'm going to display it right there and just let it get attention. It's going to get attention. And then I'm trying everything. Like not knowing if it's going to work, but I'm very optimistic. So I'm like,
driven.
It's going to work. Yeah. So I get the car and I park it in the front of the office and I just let it get tickets. And it's there all day. And in the back, my license plates have my Instagram. So I just use it. I just use it to get attention. I would get to the gym and just rev the engine on purpose.
So people could
like everywhere. I would get to restaurants, valet it, living paycheck to paycheck, and just rev the engine and pretend that I was like fucking killing it and I had millions of dollars in the bank. And all that stuff paid off. But when I got that car, I didn't have money to get that car. I put 39 grand for that car, down payment. Wow. And my payment for that lease was $2,100 a month. So the 39 grand, that was like just about everything I had in my company account, which were reserves to continue to run the mortgage guy. And I just said, I'm going to put it in here and I'm going to make extra money this month and I'm going to put it back in. And it worked. And everything that I did in the beginning, it worked. Driven. I created my own event because nobody gave me an opportunity to speak on stage.
Right.
So when I created that event, I had no money also. I had 25 grand. And I told a couple of buddies, hey, you put 25, I put 25, and we go 50-50. This year, Driven's going to do about 10 million.
Wow.
In rev. And these guys could have been 50% owners. So since that didn't work out, I used credit cards and I maxed them all out. And then I said, well, I'm going to sell tickets and that'll complete all the money that I need to have my first Driven event. And that's how it all started. But if you don't have those balls to just take big risks, then you're never going to do anything in life. And, and so that's the main thing that you have to think about when you want to be an entrepreneur.
And you leverage social media with that, right? You started doing live. Like, what were some experiences when you started doing lives and nobody was showing up to the lives, but you continue, and now you have a phenomenal audience, man.
You got to continue to do that. But man, like
who made fun of you in the process, man, of doing lives? Did anybody tell you, like, man, why are you doing these lives? What's the point of it?
A lot of times, a lot of times, and people made fun of me. But once again, I just continued to like not give a shit and do it anyways. And I was so bad that I used to have some drinks before I did the live and not watch the replay because I was so bad. And if I watched the replay, I would get discouraged. So I just kept it in there. And
That's
then
smart.
One time somebody said, oh my God, your live was so good. It changed my life. I can't believe that. Can you tell me about that story? How you got your first 3-unit FHA financing? And so people heard the right message. And even though I sucked for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, they would get one thing, and then from there on, it started giving me confidence. And now, now I'm coached by the best people in the world on how to speak, how to storytell, how to do this, how to do that, and invest in your relationships. because that's one of the things I said. Upgrade your mentors.
Upgrade your mentors, yeah, man. Upgrade your proximity, right? Now you're hanging around with the right people, and that's why you keep looking of how you could get better, how can you improve, man. Albert, last thing, since I know we're out of time, like where can people find you? So people that don't know you, how can they reach out to you?
The easiest thing is just to Google my name, Albert Preciado. Google my name, and my favorite is Instagram. You'll find me. Just Google my name, Albert Preciado, and then to end this, my next step right now is to become bulletproof. So now I'm going to become so bulletproof with my finances, with my security. Like I'm going to become bulletproof where people can't even touch me. Like I have so much money that you can't even fuck with me.
Generational wealth.
I have the best attorneys. The companies make the most money. I have the best investments. I have money spread out in different places. So you become bulletproof. Now you don't have to take those big risks that you had in the beginning. Now I'm going for that exit. All these companies that I'm building, like how can me with all my partners sell it? All the people that joined and earned equity, how can they win? How can I give more equity to more people that earn it? So that is my next step right now, and you know, life is good. Like my thing is create a dream life that you never need a vacation from.
It's powerful, man. You're a true example of what's possible if you take action, right? And you have the courage. You have the balls to make it happen. Nothing's gonna stop you, man. So with that said, man, if you guys could get a message from this podcast, man, it's again having the courage of believing in yourself, hanging around with the right people, getting people that are gonna up-level your life, and always believe that you have what it takes, man. Always believe that you have greatness within you, because when you start believing that, you start buying into it and your confidence is just gonna grow. So if you like this podcast, make sure that you guys subscribe. If you guys haven't subscribed, make sure that you guys click the like button and share this video with as many people possible that could get value from it. Because again, we wanna bring examples of people that are making it happen, right? That struggle through the same struggles that you're going through maybe at this moment. That, hey, man, it's possible when you bet on yourself, man. Quit being a pretender like somebody just told me right now. So step up and unleash your power, baby. Let's go. Have a great day.
Thank you.